Blood covered the floor in 3 different colors. Roy Bennett stepped over a puddle of green fluid and kept moving through the damaged ship. His medical kit banged against his hip with each step. The walls around him showed black scorch marks from the battle. Some sections had melted completely. Through the holes he could see stars moving past as the ship limped toward safety. Someone screamed 2 rooms away. Roy changed direction and jogged toward the sound. His boots made wet sounds on the metal floor. A young soldier from the bird species sat against a wall clutching his wing. Roy knelt beside him and checked the injury. The wing had a clean break, nothing serious. He gave the soldier something for pain and wrapped the wing tight against his body. "You will fly again," Roy said. The bird soldier nodded, tears running down his feathered face. Roy moved on. The ship creaked and groaned around him. They had barely escaped the last fight. The enemy had hit them hard with bioweapons and plasma fire. Half the crew was dead. The other half was scattered across 3 decks, bleeding and broken. Roy had been working for 6 hours straight. His hands shook from exhaustion, but he kept going. That was what medics did. They kept going until everyone was treated or they collapsed, whichever came first. He turned a corner and nearly ran into Commander Irix. The tall, bird-like alien stood in front of a sealed cargo door. 3 other medics clustered behind her, whispering to each other. They all looked scared. "What is happening here?" Roy asked. Commander Irix turned to him. Her feathers stood up along her neck, a sign of fear in her species. "There is a wounded soldier inside. A Kresh warrior. He is dying, but we cannot help him." Roy frowned. "Why not?" "Is the door jammed?" "No," one of the other medics said quickly. "The door works fine. But nobody goes near an injured Kresh. They are too dangerous. Even dying, they can tear you apart. Their instinct is to kill anything that comes close when they are hurt." Roy looked at the door. He had heard about the Kresh, everyone had. They were the galaxy's most feared warriors. 8 feet tall, covered in armored scales, with 4 arms that could rip through metal. They came from a world where gravity was 3 times stronger than Earth. Everything on their planet was built to kill. The Kresh evolved to be the biggest killers of all. "So you are just going to let him die?" Roy asked. Commander Irix lowered her head. "It is tragic, but there is no choice. The Kresh do not even help their own wounded. They believe dying in battle is honorable. To be weak is to be worthless. If we open that door, the warrior will attack on instinct. He will not understand we want to help." Roy set his medical kit down. He pulled out a scanner and checked the readings from inside the cargo hold. The device showed 1 life form, temperature dropping, heart rate slowing, massive blood loss, multiple injuries. The Kresh was maybe 20 minutes from death. "He saved people, did he not?" Roy asked quietly. The other medics looked at each other. Finally, one spoke. "Yes, he held a breach point alone for almost an hour. 17 soldiers escaped because of him. He killed over 40 enemy fighters by himself. But when the fighting stopped, he collapsed. We dragged him to this cargo hold because there was nowhere else to put him. Nobody wanted him near the other wounded." Roy picked up his kit. He walked toward the door. "What are you doing?" Commander Irix grabbed his arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong for such a thin creature. "You will die. The Kresh will kill you the moment you enter." "Baby," Roy said. He gently removed her hand from his arm. "But he saved 17 people. I think that earns him a chance. Besides, I am from Montana. We have bears there that can split trees with their claws. Mountain lions that hunt elk twice their size. I once stitched up a rancher who got trampled by a buffalo. This is just another big, dangerous animal that needs help." "This is nothing like your Earth animals," Commander Irix said. Her voice rose higher. "The Kresh are sentient killers bred for war. They feel no mercy. They know no fear. You are throwing your life away." Roy typed his access code into the door panel. The lock clicked open. "He is hurt and scared. Hurt and scared things just want the pain to stop. I can help with that." The other medics backed away from the door. Commander Irix made a sound like a bird crying. "I cannot order you to do this, but I cannot stop you either. The Coalition needs medics like you. Please reconsider." Roy smiled at her. It was a tired smile, but real. "I became a medic to help people. All people. Does not matter what they look like or where they come from. If they bleed, I patch them up. Simple as that." He opened the door and stepped inside. The heavy metal door slid shut behind him with a sound like a tomb closing. The cargo hold was dark except for emergency lights along the floor. They cast red shadows on everything. The air smelled like copper and something else, something alien and sharp. Roy heard breathing. Slow, wet, painful breathing. He pulled out his flashlight and turned it on. Two massive orange eyes opened in the darkness. They glowed like coals in a fire. A deep growl filled the room, so low Roy felt it in his chest. The sound promised violence and death. Roy swept his flashlight across the space. The beam found the Kresh warrior slumped against the far wall. He was huge, even sitting down. His forearms hung at his sides. Blue blood covered his chest and leaked from wounds on his legs. His scales, normally bright green, had faded to a dull gray. His mouth opened slightly, showing teeth designed to crush armor. The Kresh growled again, louder this time. One arm lifted slowly, claws extending. The message was clear. Come closer and die. Roy took a slow breath. He had seen this before. Injured animals always acted the same way. They threatened because they were vulnerable. They attacked because they were afraid. This Kresh was no different than the mountain lion he had tranquilized 5 years ago, after it got caught in a trap. That cat had hissed and snarled too, but once Roy showed he was not a threat, the animal had calmed down enough for treatment. Easy there, big guy, Roy said softly. He kept his movement slow and steady. I know you can probably understand me. Most species have translators, so listen carefully. My name is Roy, I'm a medic. That means I fix hurt people. You are hurt. I am going to fix you. You can try to stop me if you want, but honestly, you look too weak to put up much of a fight. So how about we skip the posturing and get to the part where I save your life? The Kresh stared at him. Those orange eyes burned with fever and confusion. His translator crackled to life, a small device attached to his chest armor. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Stay back, human. I am Kresh, I die with honor. Not with help from soft species. Roy walked closer. The Kresh tensed but did not move. Could not move, probably. Yeah, well, I am human. We do not care much about honor when someone is bleeding out. Call it a cultural difference. He knelt beside the warrior and opened his medical kit. The Kresh watched him with those burning eyes. Roy ignored the stare and focused on the wounds. 3 deep punctures in the chest, probably from bioplasma weapons. They had burned through the scales and cooked the flesh underneath. One arm was bent at a wrong angle, clearly broken. Multiple cuts and burns covered the rest of the body. The blue blood was not clotting properly. Okay, Roy muttered, mostly to himself. Puncture wounds first. Need to stop the bleeding before anything else. He pulled out a medical injector loaded with universal coagulant. The Coalition had developed it years ago to work on most species. He pressed it against the Kresh's chest and triggered it. The medicine hissed into the body. The Kresh roared. His good arms swung up, and for a moment Roy thought he would die right there. But the warrior stopped himself. His claws hung inches from Roy's face. That hurt, the Kresh growled. Yeah, I bet, Roy said calmly. Coagulant always burns, but it will stop you from bleeding to death, so you are welcome. Now hold still. I need to clean these wounds before I seal them. The Kresh lowered his arms slowly. Why do you not fear Kresh? Roy glanced up at him while working. Should I? All species fear Kresh, even other Kresh. Well, I am not most species, Roy said. He pulled out cleaning solution and started flushing the chest wounds. Where I come from, we had plenty of things that could kill us. Bears, wolves, big cats, snakes, spiders, even the weather. We learned pretty quick that fear does not help much. You either deal with the problem or you do not. Right now, the problem is these holes in your chest. The warrior was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, What is bear? Roy smiled despite himself. Big, furry animal. Weighs about 600 pounds. Has claws like knives and can run 30 miles per hour. They mostly eat fish and berries, but they will absolutely wreck you if you bother them during the wrong season. And you have faced these bears? Faced, avoided, treated people who got too close. My dad used to say Montana had 2 kinds of people. Those who respect nature and those who do not live very long. Roy finished cleaning the first wound and pulled out a medical sealer. This is going to hurt worse than the coagulant, but it will close the wound. The Kresh braced himself. Roy activated the sealer and pressed it against the injury. The device used focused heat to bond tissue together. It was brutal but effective. The Kresh hissed through his teeth but did not move. You are strong, Roy said. Most people scream when I use this thing. I am Kresh, the warrior said simply. But his voice sounded weaker now. Roy worked quickly, sealing the other 2 chest wounds. Then he moved to the broken arm. He gave the Kresh a pain blocker first, then carefully set the bone. The warrior made no sound, but Roy saw the orange eyes dim slightly. "Stay with me," Roy said firmly. "You do not get to die after I have put in all this work. Come on, talk to me." "What is your name?" "Talvor," the Kresh said slowly. "Talvor of the Firepack." "Nice to meet you, Talvor. Now tell me about your world. What is Kresh Prime like?" Talvor blinked slowly. "Why do you want to know?" "Because if you are talking, you are breathing. And if you are breathing, you are alive. So talk." The warrior managed something like a laugh. It sounded painful. "Kresh Prime has gravity that would crush your bones. The smallest predator has armor and venom. The plants have thorns like blades. Everything wants to kill everything. Only the strong survive." "Sounds a lot like Earth, just turned up a few notches," Roy said. He finished setting the arm and wrapped it in a support brace. "We have deserts that hit 130 degrees, tundra that drops to -60, oceans with creatures bigger than ships, and we have each other, which might be the most dangerous thing of all." "You understand," Talvor said quietly. "You come from Deathworld like Kresh." "I guess so," Roy said. He sat back and checked his scanner. Talvor's vitals were stabilizing. The bleeding had stopped. The worst injuries were treated. But here is the thing. Earth tried to kill us for thousands of years. We learned something from that. We learned that staying alive is not about being the strongest or the meanest. It is about being smart enough to help each other. That is why I am here. You helped 17 people live. Now I am helping you live. That is how it works." Talvor stared at him for a long moment. Then very slowly he raised one massive hand and placed it gently on Roy's shoulder. The weight was enormous, but the touch was careful. "You have honor, Roy of Montana," the Kresh said. "More than most Kresh." Roy smiled. "I will take that as a compliment. Now let us get you to a proper medical bay before something else breaks." 2 hours crawled past like wounded soldiers. Roy sat on the cold floor of the cargo hold with his back against the wall. His medical kit lay open beside him, supplies scattered around. Talvor breathed more easily now, though each breath still came with a slight wheeze. The Kresh warrior had not moved much since Roy finished the emergency treatment. His 4 arms rested across his lap, the broken one held tight in its brace. Roy checked his scanner again. The readings looked better. Heart rate steady, temperature dropping back to normal. Blood pressure climbing out of the danger zone. The Kresh would live. Probably be in pain for weeks, but he would live. "Why do you keep checking that device?" Talvor asked. His voice sounded stronger now, less like gravel sliding down a cliff. "Making sure you are not dying," Roy said. "Your biology is different from mine. I know the basics, but I want to watch for complications." Talvor shifted slightly, his scales scraping against the metal wall. "You treated me without knowing if your medicine would work?" "The Coalition uses universal protocols. They work on most species. I took a calculated risk," Roy shrugged. "Besides, doing nothing was definitely going to kill you. Doing something gave you a chance." "Calculated risk," Talvor repeated slowly. "That is very human phrase, yes?" "I guess so. We use it a lot back home." Roy pulled out a water tube from his kit and took a drink. The liquid tasted like plastic and recycled air, but it was wet. "On Earth, everything is a calculated risk. Crossing the street, flying in planes, going into the mountains. We know the dangers exist, but we do them anyway because the alternative is never doing anything. Kresh do not think this way," Talvor said. "We see danger. We fight danger. We win or we die. There is no calculation. Only strength." Roy glanced at the massive warrior. Even injured and weak, Talvor looked like he could tear through a steel door. His muscles bulged under his scales. His claws could probably punch through Roy's chest without effort. But right now, sitting in a dark cargo hold, bleeding and broken, all that strength meant nothing. "How is that working out for you?" Roy asked, keeping his voice gentle. Talvor was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. "Not well, human medic. Not well." Roy sealed his water tube and put it away. "Can I ask you something? Why do the Kresh not help their wounded? Commander Eirik said your people believe it is dishonorable." "It is truth," Talvor said. His orange eyes dimmed slightly. "Kresh Prime taught us weakness is death. If you cannot fight, you cannot survive. So wounded Kresh are left to die. It removes weakness from the pack. Makes us stronger. Does it, though?" Roy pulled his knees up and wrapped his arms around them. "Seems to me you are just wasting experience. A warrior who survives one battle knows more than a warrior who never fought. Even if he is hurt, he can teach.
He can plan.
He can help in other ways. This is not Kresh way. Maybe the Kresh way is wrong. Talvor's head snapped toward Roy. His eyes blazed bright orange again. For a second, Roy thought he had pushed too far. Then the Kresh looked away. Perhaps, Talvor said quietly. I fought in 63 battles before this one. I learned much. But if I had fallen in battle 62, all that learning would have died with me. No one would have gained from my experience. The pack would have been weaker, not stronger. Exactly, Roy said. That is why humans help each other. We figured out a long time ago that keeping people alive was better than letting them die. Even if they could not fight anymore, they could teach others to fight better. Talvor turned his head to look at Roy again. This time his eyes held curiosity instead of anger. Tell me about Earth, about how humans survived. Roy settled back against the wall. His body ached from hours of work, but talking kept him awake. Earth is beautiful and terrible at the same time. We have every kind of environment you can imagine. Hot deserts, frozen poles, deep oceans, high mountains, thick jungles. And every single one of those places has something that wants to eat you. Like Kresh Prime. Maybe. But here's the thing. Humans are not the biggest or strongest or fastest. We do not have claws or armor or venom. A bear is stronger. A cheetah is faster. A wolf has better teeth, so we had to be smarter. You made weapons, Talvor said. Eventually, yes. But before that, we learned to work together. One human alone in the wild will probably die. 10 humans working together can bring down prey 10 times their size. We learned to share food, share knowledge, share resources. That is what kept us alive. Talvor was quiet, processing this. Kresh do not share, we take. The strong take from the weak. And that works fine until you become the weak one, Roy said softly. Then what? You just die? All your strength, all your experience, all your battles just gone? The Kresh warrior lowered his head. His scales seemed to lose some of their color. Yes, that is Kresh way. I should be dead now. By my own people's standards, I am already weak. Already worthless. Well, by human standards, you are a soldier who held a line so 17 people could escape. That makes you a hero. Roy stood up slowly, his joints popping. And heroes do not die in cargo holds if I have anything to say about it. He walked over to Talvor and checked the chest wounds. They were sealed properly, no signs of infection. The broken arm looked stable. The smaller cuts and burns would heal on their own. You need real medical equipment, Roy said. I did what I could with field supplies, but a proper medical bay would be better. Can you walk? Talvor tested his legs carefully. He pushed himself up with his 3 good arms. His body shook with the effort, but he managed to stand. He towered over Roy, even hunched over from pain. I can walk, Talvor said. Slowly. But I can walk. Good enough. Roy packed his medical kit and slung it over his shoulder. He walked to the cargo hold door and pressed the panel. The door slid open with a hiss. Commander Eirik stood on the other side, surrounded by a dozen other crew members. They all stared at Roy with wide eyes. Then they saw Talvor standing behind him, alive and moving, and several of them stepped back. Impossible, one of the medics whispered. Commander Eirik's feathers were flat against her body, a sign of shock. You survived. He did not kill you. Why would he kill me? Roy asked. I was helping him. Because he is Kresh, Commander Eirik said, her voice shaking. They kill when they are wounded. It is instinct. Everyone knows this. Roy glanced back at Talvor. The big warrior stood in the doorway, his orange eyes surveying the crowd. Several crew members had weapons drawn, pointed at him. Talvor noticed but did not react. Maybe everyone is wrong, Roy said. He walked forward, and the crowd parted around him like water around a stone. Talvor needs a medical bay. He needs proper treatment and recovery time. Who is going to help me get him there? Nobody moved. They all stared at the Kresh warrior like he was a bomb about to explode. Roy sighed. Fine, Talvor, follow me, walk slow. If you feel dizzy, tell me immediately. I will follow, Roy of Montana, Talvor said. He stepped out of the cargo hold, moving carefully. Each step looked painful, but he kept his head up. Pride, probably. Kresh did not show weakness. The crowd pulled back further. Some people ran away completely. Roy led Talvor through the corridors of the damaged ship. Behind them, he heard Commander Eirik giving orders. Clear a medical bay. Get Dr. Finn. Tell him we have a Kresh patient. Yes, I know it sounds insane. Just do it. The walk took 10 minutes. It should have taken 3, but Talvor moved slowly. Twice he stumbled, and Roy had to steady him. The second time, Talvor's weight nearly crushed Roy into the floor. But they made it. The medical bay was empty except for Dr. Finn, a gray-scaled reptile species with 6 arms. He stood beside a large surgical bed designed for bigger species. When he saw Talvor, all 6 arms began twitching nervously. "Get him on the bed," Dr. Finn said quickly. "I will need complete scans, blood work, tissue samples. I have never treated a creche before." "Neither had I," Roy said. He helped Talvor climb onto the bed. The creche lay back with a grunt of pain. But the basics are the same. Stop the bleeding, stabilize the patient, treat the injuries. Dr. Finn's scanner arms began moving over Talvor's body, taking readings. "You sealed these wounds with a field kit?" "Impressive. Very impressive. The technique is crude but effective." "I was working in a dark cargo hold," Roy said. "Crude was all I had." Talvor's hand shot out and grabbed Roy's arm gently. "You will stay? While they treat me." Roy looked at the massive warrior. Those orange eyes held something Roy had not expected to see. Fear. Not fear of death or pain. Fear of being alone. "Yeah," Roy said. "I will stay. Someone needs to make sure these doctors do not mess up my good work." Dr. Finn made an offended chirping sound, but he did not argue. He continued scanning Talvor while Roy stood beside the bed. Commander Irix entered the medical bay, her feathers still flat with shock. "The High Command wants a report. They want to know how you survived treating a creche warrior." "I used medicine and common sense," Roy said. "Not much to report." "You do not understand," Commander Irix said. She moved closer, her voice dropping low. "What you did should have been impossible. The creche are the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Nobody treats them. Nobody even tries. But you walked into that cargo hold like you were treating a house pet." "He is not a pet," Roy said firmly. "He is a soldier who got hurt protecting others. That makes him worth saving." Talvor's grip on Roy's arm tightened slightly. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to acknowledge the words. Commander Irix looked between the human and the creche. Something changed in her expression. Understanding, maybe, or the beginning of it. "The galaxy is going to hear about this," she said quietly. "A human medic treating a creche warrior. It will change things. I do not know how yet, but it will change things." Roy shrugged. "I just did my job. If that changes things, fine. If not, also fine. Either way, Talvor is alive. That is what matters." Dr. Finn's scanners beeped. "I have the results. The human's treatment was sufficient. With proper rest and medication, the creche will make a full recovery. Approximately 8 weeks. 8 weeks, Talvor repeated. Too long. My pack will think me dead. They will not wait." "Then they are idiots," Roy said bluntly. "You held a line alone for an hour. Killed 40 enemies, saved 17 soldiers. If your pack does not value that, find a better pack." Talvor stared at him. Then slowly the creche began to laugh. It was a deep rumbling sound that shook the medical bed. Dr. Finn jumped back in alarm, but Roy just smiled. "Humans are strange," Talvor said. "But I begin to understand why the galaxy fears you." "We are not scary," Roy said. "We just do not quit. Earth taught us that." "No," Talvor said, his orange eyes bright. "That is exactly why you are scary." 3 days passed like slow-moving clouds. The damaged ship docked at Firebase Meridian, a massive coalition station that hung in space like a metal moon. Roy spent most of those days sleeping, eating, and checking on Talvor. The creche warrior healed faster than any species Roy had ever seen. The chest wounds closed completely within 48 hours. The broken arm was already showing signs of bone fusion. Dr. Finn said it was normal for creche biology. Everything about them was built for survival. Roy walked through the station's corridors toward the medical wing. Other crew members stared at him as he passed. Word had spread quickly. The human who treated a creche. The medic who walked into certain death and walked back out. People whispered when they thought he could not hear. Some looked at him with respect. Others looked at him like he was crazy. Roy ignored them all. He entered the medical wing and found Talvor sitting up in bed, arguing with Dr. Finn in 3 different languages. The creche's translator struggled to keep up. "You are not ready for physical activity," Dr. Finn insisted. All 6 arms crossed over his chest. "I am creche," Talvor growled. "We do not lay in beds like weaklings." "You are a patient," Dr. Finn shot back. "And patients follow doctor's orders or they leave my medical bay." Roy cleared his throat. Both of them turned to look at him. Roy, Talvor said, his voice brightening, tell this doctor I am well enough to walk. He is not well enough to walk, Dr. Finn said immediately. Roy walked to the bed and pulled out his scanner. He ran it over Talvor's body, checking the readings. Everything looked good. Better than good, actually. The Kresh's natural healing was remarkable. He can walk, Roy said, but nothing strenuous. No fighting. No heavy lifting. Just walking. Dr. Finn's scales flushed dark purple, a sign of frustration. You are both impossible. Talvor swung his legs off the bed, all four arms working to push himself upright. He stood slowly, testing his weight. The broken arm still hung in its brace, but the other three moved freely. Where do you want to walk? Roy asked. The observation deck, Talvor said. I want to see the stars without a ship's hull between us. They walked together through the station. Talvor moved carefully, his heavy footsteps echoing off the metal floors. Other people in the corridors froze when they saw him. A Kresh warrior walking free through the station. It was unheard of. Kresh came to Coalition stations for military briefings and supply runs, then left immediately. They did not socialize. They did not sightsee. They definitely did not walk casually through public spaces. But here was Talvor, moving slowly beside a human medic, looking around with curious orange eyes. They reached the observation deck. It was a large room with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the void of space. Stars stretched in every direction. 3 other people were in the room when they arrived. All 3 took one look at Talvor and quickly left. They fear me, Talvor said quietly. Yes, Roy agreed. There was no point lying about it. Does that bother you? Should it? Roy walked to the window and looked out at the stars. They have never met a Kresh before, probably. All they know are the stories. Giant warriors from a death world who fight alone and never retreat. That would scare most people. Talvor joined him at the window. His reflection showed in the glass a massive scaled figure next to a much smaller human. And you? What do you see when you look at me? Roy thought about it. I see someone who held a line so others could escape. Someone who was hurt and let me help him. Someone who is trying to heal. He glanced up at the Kresh. Mostly I see a patient who needs to stop pushing himself so hard. Talvor's mouth opened, showing his sharp teeth. It took Roy a moment to realize the Kresh was smiling. You are strange, Roy of Montana. All humans are strange. We get that a lot. Roy pointed out the window. Which star is Kresh Prime? Talvor's eyes scanned the void. After a moment, he raised one clawed finger and pointed. There, the red giant in the lower quadrant. My world orbits the 3rd planet in that system. Long way from home. Yes, I have been away for 6 years, fighting in coalition wars against the Dreadclaw swarm. Roy studied the distant red star. Do you miss it? Your home? Talvor was quiet for a long time. I miss the weight. The gravity on Kresh Prime is strong. It presses down on you every moment. Makes you feel solid, real. Coalition stations use artificial gravity that is much weaker. I feel like I might float away sometimes. I know what you mean, Roy said. Not about the gravity, but about home. Earth has seasons, 4 of them, where I am from. Summer, fall, winter, spring. The air smells different in each one. The sky looks different. I miss that. Space stations all smell the same, like recycled air and disinfectant. You understand, Talvor said. He lowered his hand from the window. Earth and Kresh Prime are different worlds, but they made us similar. We come from places that tested us. That made us strong. Death worlds, Roy said. That is what the Coalition calls them. Planets where the environment itself is dangerous enough to shape how species evolve. Humans call Earth a death world? Some do, others just call it home. Roy smiled. But yeah, compared to most Coalition species, Earth is pretty brutal. We have natural disasters, extreme climates, dangerous animals. The Coalition scientists say it is unusual for a sentient species to evolve on a world with so many threats. Kresh Prime is the same. Most Coalition species come from gentle worlds. Worlds where the weather is stable and the predators are small. Talvor's voice held something like contempt. They do not understand what it means to be tested every day of your life. Roy nodded slowly. That is true, but it does not make them weak. Just different. They developed other strengths. Technology, cooperation, art. Things that humans and Kresh had to fight too hard to survive to focus on. Talvor tilted his massive head. You defend the soft species? I defend everyone, Roy said simply. That is my job. But I also think the soft species have value. They invented most of the medical technology I use. They designed these stations. They created the coalition that lets different species work together. That takes a different kind of strength. Talvor looked back out at the stars. You make me think, human medic. The Kresh do not value thinking as much as fighting. But perhaps that is another mistake we make. Before Roy could respond, the door to the observation deck slid open. Commander Irix entered, her feathers smoothed down in a formal pattern. Behind her walked another figure, tall and crystalline, catching the light from the stars. Medic Bennett, Commander Irix said. Admiral Thorne wishes to speak with you. The crystalline figure stepped forward. Admiral Thorne looked like a sculpture made of colored glass. Light refracted through his body, casting rainbow patterns on the floor. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. Medic Roy Bennett, I have been reviewing reports of your actions aboard the Steadfast Alliance. The Admiral's crystalline eyes fixed on Roy. You treated a Kresh warrior under combat conditions and survived. How did you accomplish this? Roy shrugged. I used standard medical procedures. Stopped the bleeding, stabilized the patient, treated the injuries. That is not what I asked. Admiral Thorne moved closer. I asked how you survived. Kresh warriors kill anything that approaches them when wounded. This is documented behavior. Yet you walked into a sealed cargo hold with no weapons and no backup. Why did the Kresh not kill you? Roy glanced at Talvor. The big warrior stood silent, watching the exchange. Because he did not want to die, Roy said. And I made it clear I was there to help, not hurt. That should not have mattered. Wounded Kresh act on instinct, not reason. Maybe your reports are wrong, Roy said. His voice stayed calm but firm. Or maybe the Kresh are more reasonable than people give them credit for. Talvor made a rumbling sound deep in his chest. It might have been agreement. Admiral Thorne's crystalline body shifted colors, flowing from blue to purple to green. The Kresh Dominion has contacted us. They want to know more about the human who saved one of their warriors. This is unprecedented. The Kresh do not normally care what happens to their wounded. They should, Roy said. Every wounded warrior who recovers is a warrior who can fight again. Basic math. Basic math, Admiral Thorne repeated. His colors settled on a deep blue. You humans see everything so simply. Life or death, help or do not help, fight or surrender. Is there a middle option I am missing? Roy asked. Commander Irix made a sound that might have been a laugh. She quickly covered her beak with her wing. Admiral Thorne's colors shifted to purple again. The Kresh Dominion wants to send representatives to meet with you. They want to understand human methods. This could change coalition relations with the Kresh. Do you understand the political implications? No, Roy said honestly. I am a medic, not a politician. I fixed a hurt soldier. If that causes political changes, you can deal with that part. I will stick to medicine. For a long moment, Admiral Thorne simply stared at Roy. Then his colors shifted to a warm gold. You are exactly what the report said. Infuriatingly simple and remarkably effective. He turned to face Talvor. And you, warrior? What do you think of this human? Talvor drew himself up to his full height. Even injured, he was an imposing figure. I think Roy Bennett has more honor than most Kresh. He did not hesitate. He did not fear. He saw a warrior in need and acted. This is strength of a different kind. A strength the Kresh do not understand. High praise from a Kresh, Admiral Thorne said. His colors flickered between several shades. Very well. Medic Bennett, you are assigned to integrated medical operations. You will train other medics in your techniques. The Coalition wants more personnel capable of treating Kresh warriors. I can do that, Roy said. But I need to warn you. My techniques are not special. I just treated him like any other patient. The hard part is not being afraid. That is exactly what we need to teach, Admiral Thorne said. Fear is what prevents cooperation. If we can teach other species to overcome their fear of the Kresh, we can build stronger alliances. Talvor spoke up. And if Kresh can learn to accept help, we become stronger too. Not weaker, as we always believed. Admiral Thorne's colors brightened. Yes, exactly. This is what the Coalition needs. Species learning from each other. Humans teaching courage. Kresh learning cooperation. He turned toward the door. Commander Irix, arrange meetings with the Kresh representatives. Medic Bennett, prepare training materials. Warrior Talvor, You will assist with these meetings once you are fully recovered." The Admiral left, his crystalline body catching the starlight as he moved. Commander Irix lingered for a moment. "You changed something today," she said quietly. "Something important. I hope you understand that." "I just did my job," Roy said for what felt like the 100th time. "No," Commander Irix said. Her feathers rippled in an expression Roy did not recognize. "You did much more than that." She left following the Admiral. Roy and Talvor stood alone in the observation deck again. "They make everything complicated," Roy said. Talvor's laugh rumbled through the room. "Yes, but perhaps some things should be complicated. Perhaps my people have made life too simple. Fight or die. Win or lose. Maybe there are other options we never considered. Like asking for help when you need it?" "Like asking for help when we need it," Talvor agreed. He placed his good hand on Roy's shoulder again. That careful, gentle touch. "You are teaching me human. Teaching an old warrior new ways. I did not think that was possible." Roy smiled. "Everything is possible. You just have to be stubborn enough to try." The training room smelled like sweat and cleaning solution. Roy stood in front of 20 medics from different species. Bird-like avirans, scaled reptiles, insectoid beings with multiple eyes, even 2 other humans. They all looked nervous. In the corner of the room, Talvor sat on a reinforced bench, watching. His broken arm was out of its brace now, healing well. Dr. Finn said the bone had fused completely. Crash biology was remarkable. "Today we are going to talk about treating dangerous species," Roy said. He kept his voice calm and professional. "I know you all heard the stories. The human who treated a Crash and lived. But there is no magic to it. No special technique, just basic principles that work on any patient." One of the Aviran medics raised a wing, but Kresh are different. "They kill when wounded. Everyone knows this. Everyone is wrong," Roy said flatly. "Talvor, can you explain?" The big Kresh stood up and walked to the front of the room. Several medics leaned back in their seats. Talvor noticed but did not comment. "Kresh do not kill healers," Talvor said, his translator turning his growls into words. "We kill threats. If you approach with weapons, we defend ourselves. If you approach with fear, we sense weakness and attack. But if you approach with confidence and purpose, we understand." Roy approached me with purpose. He made it clear he was there to help. "So I did not kill him." "But you were dying," another medic said. "Your judgment must have been impaired." "My judgment was perfect," Talvor rumbled. "I knew I would die without help. When help arrived, I took it." "This is not complicated," Roy nodded. "Exactly. Now let us go through the steps I used. First, I assessed the situation from outside. I used my scanner to check vital signs and injury severity. This told me I had about 20 minutes before he would die from blood loss. That gave me a timeline. He pulled up a holographic display showing Talvor's injuries from that day. The medics leaned forward, studying the images. Second, I entered slowly and announced my presence. I did not sneak. I did not hesitate. I walked in like I belonged there and explained what I was going to do. This is important. Wounded animals, wounded sentience, they are scared and confused. If you act scared, they react to that fear. If you act confident, they calm down. That is too simple. One of the insectoid medics clicked. There must be more to it. There is not, Roy said. Fear is contagious. Calm is also contagious. You choose which one you spread. I chose calm. He walked to the holographic display and pointed at the chest wounds. Third, I prioritized injuries. Bleeding first, broken bones second, minor injuries last. This is standard triage, but it is even more important with dangerous species. The faster you work, the less time they spend in pain. Less pain means less aggression. Talvor nodded. When Roy stopped my bleeding, the pain decreased. My mind cleared. I could think instead of just react. Roy continued through the treatment steps, explaining each decision. The medics asked questions. Some were good questions about medical techniques. Others were questions about fear management. Roy answered them all honestly. But what if the patient attacks anyway? An Aviran medic asked. What if they do not respond to calm behavior? Then you leave, Roy said simply. You cannot help someone who will not let you help them. But most of the time, if you show you are not a threat, they will give you a chance. Animals in the wild do this all the time. They assess threats constantly. If you are not acting like a predator, they do not treat you like one. One of the human medics, a woman named Lisa from Singapore, spoke up. This reminds me of when I worked with wildlife rescue on Earth. We had the same principles. Calm, confident, purposeful. It worked on everything from birds to crocodiles. Exactly, Roy said. The principles are universal because fear is universal. Every species understands fear. Every species can sense when someone else is afraid. So do not be afraid, or at least do not show it. But Kresh are sentient. The insectoid medic clicked again. They are not animals. Talvor's orange eyes brightened. We are both. Sentient and animal, thinking and instinct. The Coalition forgets this. You see us as either one or the other. But we are always both. Humans understand this. They are the same way. Roy smiled. He is right. Humans evolved from animals. We still have animal instincts. Fear, anger, hunger, pain. But we also have higher thinking. The trick is balancing both. Using your thinking brain to manage your animal brain. He pulled up another holographic display. This one showed statistics. The Coalition has records of 478 cases where medics encountered wounded Kresh. Of those, 461 medics refused to treat them. 17 attempted treatment. 12 were killed. 5 survived, but only after the Kresh died from their wounds. I am the first medic to successfully treat a Kresh and have them survive. The room was silent. The numbers spoke for themselves. Those 12 medics who died, Roy continued. I reviewed their reports. Every single one approached with weapons drawn. Every single one acted afraid. Every single one hesitated. They expected to be attacked, so they were attacked. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you are saying, Lisa said slowly, that the key to treating dangerous species is not better equipment or stronger sedatives. It is better emotional control. Yes, Roy said. Better emotional control in the medic. If you are calm, the patient calms down. If you are confident, the patient trusts you. If you are competent, the patient survives. Everything else is secondary. Talvor stepped forward. I will help demonstrate. Any medic here may examine my healed wounds. Check Roy's work. See how human medicine saved a Kresh life. The medics hesitated. Then Lisa stood up. She walked to Talvor slowly, her scanner in hand. May I? She asked. Yes, Talvor said. He stood perfectly still while she scanned him. Lisa's scanner beeped and displayed results. The wounds healed cleanly. No infection. Bone fusion is complete. Tissue regeneration is excellent. She looked up at Talvor. You are healthy. Because Roy did not let fear stop him from doing his job, Talvor said. One by one, the other medics came forward. They scanned Talvor, examining the healed injuries. The big Kresh warrior stood patient and calm, letting them work. By the end, all 20 medics had touched him, scanned him, verified his recovery. None of them had died. None of them had even been threatened. Roy watched this with satisfaction. You all just did something the Coalition said was impossible. You examined a Kresh warrior up close, and nothing bad happened. Why? Because you were not afraid. Well, you were afraid, but you did not let fear control you. That is the lesson. The training session continued for another hour. Roy demonstrated treatment techniques on volunteer patients from different species. Talvor answered questions about Kresh biology and psychology. The medics slowly relaxed, their initial fear fading into professional curiosity. When the session ended, several medics thanked Roy personally. Lisa stayed behind after the others left. That was brilliant, she said. You just changed how the Coalition thinks about dangerous species. Maybe, Roy said. He was packing up his equipment, tired from teaching. Or maybe they will forget everything and go back to being afraid. No, Talvor said. He had been silent for a few minutes, watching the medics leave. They will remember. Today they touched a Kresh and lived. That memory will stay with them. It will change how they see my people. Lisa nodded. He is right. Fear is learned, but courage can be learned too. You taught them courage today. Roy shrugged. I just taught them to do their jobs. The door opened again. Commander Irix entered, followed by 3 Kresh warriors Roy had never seen before. They wore the same armor as Talvor, but with different markings. Behind them walked a 4th Kresh, older and larger than the others. Scars covered his body and his orange eyes burned with intelligence. Talvor immediately dropped to one knee. War Chief Dravok, I did not know you were coming. The older Kresh waved a hand. Stand, Talvor. You are wounded. You do not kneel for me. I am healed, War Chief. Because of this human. Dravok's eyes fixed on Roy. You are Roy Bennett, the medic who saved my warrior. Roy nodded slowly. Yes, I am Roy Bennett. Dravok stepped closer. He was even bigger than Talvor. his muscles like coiled steel under his scales. The Kresh Dominion does not understand what you did. We do not understand why you did it. Explain yourself, human. Lisa tensed beside Roy, but he stayed calm. I am a medic. Talvor was wounded. I treated him. There is nothing to explain. Kresh do not help wounded warriors. This is our way. By helping Talvor, you violated our traditions. You showed him weakness. I showed him medicine, Roy corrected. And if your traditions say to let good warriors die, then your traditions are stupid. The three younger Kresh warriors hissed. Their hands moved toward their weapons. Talvor stood up quickly, putting himself between Roy and the other Kresh. But War Chief Drevok laughed. It was a deep, booming sound that filled the training room. Stupid, you call Kresh traditions stupid. No one has dared say that to my face in 50 years. Then you have been surrounding yourself with yes men for 50 years, Roy said. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. Sir, with respect, any tradition that wastes resources is a bad tradition. Talvor is a skilled warrior. He held a line alone for an hour. He saved 17 lives. Letting him die would have been a waste. So I did not let him die. Simple as that. Drevok stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to Talvor. This human has no fear. Does he have no sense either? He has both, War Chief, Talvor said. But he has something else. Something we Kresh have forgotten. He has compassion. And compassion made him strong enough to enter a room with a dying Kresh warrior. Compassion is weakness. Is it? Talvor gestured to his healed body. I am alive because of compassion. I can fight again because of compassion. I can serve the Dominion because of compassion. How is that weakness? War Chief Drevok was silent. His orange eyes moved between Talvor and Roy. Finally, he spoke again. The Dominion sent me to investigate, to determine if human methods have value for Kresh warriors. I did not believe they would. I thought this was a waste of time. He paused. I was wrong. The three younger warriors looked shocked. War Chief Drevok continued. Humans come from a death world like ours, but they learned different lessons. They learned to help each other instead of leaving the weak to die. And because of that, they are stronger than they should be. They survive things that should kill them. They accomplish things that should be impossible. He looked directly at Roy. You saved Talvor because you did not know it was impossible. That is very human. Roy smiled slightly. I am starting to hear that a lot. The Kresh Dominion will send warriors to train with human medics, Drevok announced. We will learn your methods. We will test whether compassion truly makes us stronger. And if it does, we will change our traditions. He placed a massive hand on Talvor's shoulder. This warrior will lead the program. He has experienced human medicine. He understands its value. Talvor's orange eyes blazed bright. I am honored, War Chief. Drevok nodded. Then he did something Roy did not expect. The War Chief extended his hand toward Roy, palm up, a Kresh gesture of respect between equals. Roy reached out and placed his hand in the Kresh's palm. Drevok's hand could have crushed his bones, but the grip was gentle. You have changed the Kresh, human medic, Drevok said quietly. For better or worse, we will not know for years. But you have changed us. That takes courage most beings do not have. I just did my job, Roy said one more time. Drevok's mouth opened, showing sharp teeth. A Kresh smile. Yes, that is exactly why it worked. Alarms screamed through Firebase Meridian like wounded animals. Roy grabbed his medical kit and ran toward the deployment bay. Around him, soldiers rushed in the same direction. The station shook from distant explosions. Something big was happening. He reached the deployment bay and found chaos. Hundreds of soldiers gathered around transport ships. Officers shouted orders. Weapons were distributed. Medical supplies were loaded onto cargo pallets. Commander Eirik stood on a raised platform coordinating the response. Roy pushed through the crowd until he reached her. What is happening? Commander Eirik turned to him, her feathers standing straight up. The Dreadclaw swarm hit Haven's Reach, a colony world with 3 million civilians. The orbital defenses are failing. We have maybe 6 hours before the swarm reaches the surface. She looked down at her datapad. Coalition Command is deploying every available unit. That includes medical teams. I am ready, Roy said. Your team is already loading onto Transport 17. You will be establishing a field hospital in New Providence, the capital city. It is the main defensive line. She paused. Talvor and his fire squad are also being deployed there. Roy nodded. He is healed enough to fight? Dr. Finn cleared him yesterday. Against his better judgment. Commander Irix's voice dropped lower. Roy, this is bad. The Dreadclaw do not take prisoners. They consume everything. If the line breaks, millions of people die. Then we make sure the line does not break. Roy adjusted his medical kit and headed toward Transport 17. The transport ship was loud and crowded. 30 soldiers packed into a space designed for 20. Roy found a corner and strapped himself in. Beside him sat Private Davis, a young human from Texas. The kid looked nervous. First deployment? Roy asked. Davis nodded. Yes, sir. I have done training, but never actual combat. I am not, sir. I am a medic. Call me Roy. He checked Davis's equipment. Everything was secure. Stay close to your squad leader. Follow orders. If you get hit, yell for a medic. We will find you. What if I freeze up? What if I'm too scared to move? Roy remembered asking his father the same question years ago, before his first wildfire season as a volunteer firefighter. His father had said something simple but true. Fear means you are paying attention, Roy said. It means your brain is working. The secret is not to stop being afraid. The secret is to move anyway. Fear and action can exist at the same time. Davis looked at him. You are never afraid? I'm afraid all the time, Roy admitted. But I have a job to do. So I do it. The transport ship shuddered as it launched from the station. Through the small windows, Roy watched Firebase Meridian shrink away. Then they were in faster-than-light travel, the stars stretching into lines. The trip took 2 hours. Roy used the time to check his supplies and brief his medical team. 4 other medics were assigned to his unit. Lisa from Singapore, Dr. Finn, who insisted on coming despite being a station doctor, and 2 Avaran medics named Pix and Rella. They were all scared but professional. We set up in a fortified position, Roy explained. Treat the wounded as they come in. Prioritize based on severity, not species. Anyone who can be saved gets treatment. Anyone who cannot be saved gets pain relief and comfort. No one dies alone if we can help it. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Through the windows, Roy saw Haven's Reach. It was a beautiful planet, blue and green like Earth. But the space around it was filled with Dreadclaw bioships. They looked like massive insects, their organic hulls pulsing with unnatural life. The transport pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Brace for combat drop. The landing zone is hot. Repeat, landing zone is hot. The ship shook violently as it entered atmosphere. Explosions flashed outside the windows. Anti-aircraft fire from the Dreadclaw. The transport's defensive systems fired back, filling the air with streaks of light. They hit the ground hard. The rear hatch dropped open and soldiers poured out. Roy grabbed his kit and followed. The medical team stayed together, running toward a prefabricated bunker 50 meters away. The sky above them swarmed with Dreadclaw fighters. They looked like flying beetles, each one the size of a car. Coalition fighters engaged them, turning the air into a war zone. On the ground, Roy saw the defensive line. Trenches and barriers stretched across the city, manned by soldiers from a dozen species. In the distance, the Dreadclaw ground forces advanced like a dark tide. They reached the bunker and set up quickly. Dr. Finn activated the power generators. Lisa organized the medical supplies. Pix and Rella prepared surgical stations. Roy checked the communication equipment. The first wounded arrived within minutes. A soldier with acid burns across his chest. The Dreadclaw used bioweapons, spitting acid that ate through armor. Roy and Lisa worked together, neutralizing the acid and treating the burns. The soldier screamed, but he would live. More wounded came. Burns, puncture wounds, broken bones, missing limbs. The medical team worked without stopping. Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. Explosions. Weapons fire. The screams of dying soldiers and dying Dreadclaw. 2 hours passed in a blur of blood and medicine. Roy's hands moved automatically, treating injury after injury. His mind focused completely on each patient. Save this one. Comfort that one. Move to the next. A communication came through. Commander Irix's voice crackling with static. All units, the eastern flank is collapsing. Crash Fire Squad requesting immediate medical support. Grid reference Delta 7. Roy looked up from his current patient. Delta 7 was 5 blocks away, deep in the combat zone. I will go, Roy said. Negative, Commander Irix responded. It is too dangerous. The Dreadclaw have overrun that sector. Talvor is there, Roy said simply. He grabbed a portable medical kit and extra supplies. Dr. Finn looked at him with wide eyes. You cannot go out there. You're a medic, not a soldier. Talvor held a line so 17 people could escape. Now he needs help. I am going. Roy checked his personal shield generator and grabbed a weapon. Coalition medics were allowed to carry weapons for self-defense, though Roy had never used his. Lisa, you are in charge until I get back. If you get back, Lisa said. But she nodded. Be careful. Private Davis stood up. I will go with you. You need someone to watch your back. Roy wanted to refuse, but Davis was right. Going alone was suicide. Going with one soldier was just very dangerous. Stay close. If I say run, you run. Understood? Understood. They left the bunker and moved into the ruined city. Buildings burned around them. The streets were empty except for bodies and debris. Roy's scanner guided them toward Delta 7. They moved quickly but carefully, avoiding the main streets where Dreadclaw patrols hunted. They heard the fighting before they saw it. The sound of Kresh war roars and weapons fire echoed between buildings. Roy and Davis turned a corner and found the battle. 6 Kresh warriors fought in a collapsed building. They were surrounded by Dreadclaw soldiers, insectoid creatures with razor-sharp limbs and acid-spitting mouths. Bodies of both species littered the ground. The Kresh were winning, but barely. 2 of them were already down, not moving. Talvor fought at the center, his forearms moving like a storm. Then Roy saw the problem. Talvor was wounded. Blue blood covered his left side. He fought on, but each movement looked slower than the last. We need to reach them, Roy said. He pulled out his weapon and checked the charge. Full power. Covering fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. They opened fire on the Dreadclaw from behind. The insectoid soldiers had not expected an attack from this direction. Several went down immediately. The others turned to face the new threat. Talvor saw them. His orange eyes blazed with recognition. Roy, get back. Too dangerous. Shut up and let me work, Roy shouted back. He and Davis kept firing, driving the Dreadclaw back. The surviving Kresh warriors used the distraction to press their attack. Within minutes, the Dreadclaw were dead or retreating. Roy ran to Talvor. The big warrior was breathing hard, blue blood pooling at his feet. I told you to stay at the medical station. Yeah, well, I am bad at following orders. Roy scanned the wound. Acid burns, deep tissue damage, possible internal bleeding. You need surgery, now. No time, Talvor growled. More Dreadclaw coming. We must hold this position. You cannot hold anything if you are dead. Roy pulled out his medical supplies. Davis watched the perimeter. I need 2 minutes. He worked fast. Neutralized the acid. Injected coagulant. Sealed the worst of the wounds. It was crude field medicine. Barely enough to keep Talvor conscious, but it would have to do. Another Kresh warrior approached. Roy recognized him from the earlier meeting. One of War Chief Dravok's guards. The human medic. You came into combat zone for Talvor? I came for all of you, Roy corrected. He moved to check the 2 downed Kresh. One was dead, his injuries too severe. The other was alive but unconscious. Roy stabilized him quickly. We are Kresh, the guard said. We do not need medical support in battle. You do now, Roy said flatly. Unless you want to die for no good reason. The sound of skittering claws echoed through the ruined building. More Dreadclaw were coming. A lot more, judging by the sound. Davis raised his weapon. We need to leave now. Negative, Talvor said. He forced himself to stand, using his weapon as a crutch. This building overlooks the main defensive line. If the Dreadclaw take it, they can fire down on our forces. We hold here or everyone dies. Roy looked at the situation. 4 Kresh warriors still standing. 1 wounded human medic, 1 inexperienced human soldier, and a horde of Dreadclaw about to pour through the doors. Okay, Roy said. He picked up a weapon from one of the fallen Dreadclaw. We hold! But someone call for reinforcements. The guard activated his communicator. Command, this is Fire Squad 7. We are pinned at Delta 7. Dreadclaw force estimated at 30 plus. Requesting immediate support, static. Then Commander Irix's voice. Reinforcements are 10 minutes out. Can you hold? Talvor looked at Roy. Roy looked at Davis. Davis looked terrified but nodded. We will hold, Talvor said. The Dreadclaw poured through the broken walls like a flood of chitin and rage. The battle became chaos. Roy fired his weapon until it overheated, then grabbed another. Davis fought beside him, the kid's fear transforming into desperate courage. The Kresh warriors were unstoppable, their forearms dealing death with every movement. But there were too many Dreadclaw. They kept coming, overwhelming through sheer numbers. Roy's shield generator failed. A dreadclaw claw slashed across his arm, cutting deep. He barely felt it through the adrenaline. Talvor roared and smashed the dreadclaw away from Roy. "Stay behind me, human." "I'm not a soldier," Roy shouted back, still firing. "I am really bad at this." "You are doing fine," Talvor growled. For a medic, Davis went down. A dreadclaw had spit acid on his leg. The kid screamed. Roy dragged him behind cover and quickly neutralized the acid. The wound was bad but treatable. "Stay down. You are out of the fight." "No," Davis gasped. "I can still shoot." Roy handed him a weapon. "Then shoot. But stay in cover." A Kresh warrior fell. Then another. There were only 3 left standing now. Talvor the guard and 1 other. Roy was out of ammunition. Davis was wounded. The dreadclaw kept coming. This was it. They were going to die here. Then the ceiling exploded. Kresh dropships punched through the roof of the building, their armored hulls crushing dreadclaw beneath them. Dozens of fresh Kresh warriors poured out, roaring their war cry. War Chief Dravok leaped from the lead ship, his massive form crushing 2 dreadclaw on landing. "Talvor, report." "Holding, War Chief," Talvor said, swaying on his feet. Barely. The battle turned. Fresh Kresh warriors and the arrival of coalition reinforcements drove the dreadclaw back. Within 5 minutes, the building was secure. Roy collapsed against a wall, exhausted. His arm bled steadily, but he ignored it. He needed to check on Davis first. The kid's leg was worse than he thought. He would need surgery. "Lisa," Roy said into his communicator. "I have a priority casualty. Sending coordinates." "Acknowledged," Lisa's voice came back. "Extraction team coming your way." Talvor limped over and sat beside Roy. They were both covered in blood, some of it theirs, most of it not. "You are insane, human," Talvor said. "Coming into combat for me." "Yeah, probably," Roy agreed. His hands were shaking now that the fighting was over. "But I was not going to let you die. Not after all the work I put into healing you the first time." Talvor laughed. Then he placed his hand on Roy's shoulder, that now familiar gentle touch. "You saved my fire squad, all of us. We would have died without you." War Chief Dravok approached. He looked down at Roy with those burning orange eyes. The human medic fights like Kresh, poorly but with courage. "I am a terrible fighter," Roy admitted. "I am much better at fixing people than hurting them." "That is why you are valuable," Dravok said. "The Coalition has many fighters, few healers brave enough to walk into battle for their patients." He raised his voice so all nearby soldiers could hear. "The Kresh Dominion declares Roy Bennett a friend of the Kresh people. Any warrior who harms him answers to me personally." The Kresh warriors roared their approval. The sound echoed through the ruined building. Roy just wanted to sleep. But he had work to do. Davis needed surgery. Talvor needed proper treatment. And judging by the ongoing sounds of battle outside, this fight was far from over. He pushed himself to his feet. "Come on! Let us get you all patched up again." Talvor stood beside him. "Again and again if necessary." "That is what friends do, yes?" "Yeah," Roy said. He smiled despite the pain and exhaustion. "That is what friends do." The medical cruiser Sanctuary smelled like antiseptic and hope. Roy woke up in a clean bed with white sheets and no alarm screaming. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then the memories came back. The battle. The dreadclaw. Davis going down. Talvor wounded again. He sat up too quickly and his arm protested. Someone had bandaged it properly. Neat white wrapping from elbow to wrist. His head felt fuzzy from pain medication. "You should rest," a familiar voice said. Dr. Finn sat in a chair beside the bed, his 6 arms folded across his chest. "You lost significant blood. You need recovery time." "How long was I out?" 16 hours. The battle for Haven's Reach ended 6 hours ago. The Coalition won. The Dreadclaw were pushed back. Dr. Finn leaned forward. "You and Private Davis were extracted from the combat zone and brought here for treatment. I performed surgery on both of you, Davis." Roy asked immediately. "We'll keep his leg. The acid damage was severe, but I repaired it. He will walk again, though he may have a limp." Dr. Finn's scale shifted to a lighter color. "You saved him. If you had not neutralized that acid immediately, he would have lost the limb." Roy relaxed slightly. "And Talvor?" "The Kresh warrior is fine. His people heal remarkably fast. He is already out of bed and causing trouble." Dr. Finn made a sound like a sigh. "You humans and Kresh are very similar. Neither of you understand the concept of bed rest. The door opened. Lisa entered carrying a data pad. She smiled when she saw Roy awake. Finally, you have been unconscious for long enough. People want to talk to you. What people? Everyone. Lisa sat on the edge of the bed. Roy, what you did spread through the entire coalition. A human medic went into active combat to save Kresh warriors. The story is everywhere. You are famous, Roy groaned. I do not want to be famous. I want to do my job. Too late. Admiral Thorne wants to give you a medal. The Kresh Dominion wants to honor you. 3 news agencies want interviews. She paused. And Commander Irix wants to court-martial you for disobeying direct orders. That sounds more reasonable, Roy muttered. Lisa laughed. She will not actually do it. Admiral Thorne overruled her. Apparently your unauthorized rescue inspired half the Kresh forces to fight harder. War Chief Dravok said his warriors saw a human risk his life for Kresh, and decided the coalition was worth dying for. I did not do it to inspire anyone. I did it because Talvor needed help. I know. That is why it worked. Lisa's expression became more serious. You changed something, Roy. Not just with the Kresh, with everyone. People are talking about how humans face danger differently, how we see possibilities instead of limitations. The Coalition has been fighting the Dreadclaw for 20 years with limited success. But in the last 3 days, with human forces fully integrated, we achieved the biggest victory yet. Roy did not know what to say to that. He had not set out to change anything. He had just treated patients, saved lives. Done his job, the door opened again. Talvor had to duck to enter the medical bay. The big Kresh warrior looked healthy, his wounds fully healed. Behind him came War Chief Dravok and 3 other Kresh warriors Roy did not recognize. Roy of Montana, Talvor said formally. You are awake. This is good. Roy swung his legs off the bed, ignoring Dr. Finn's protests. Talvor, you look better than when I last saw you. I was stitched back together by Dr. Finn. Adequate work, though not as good as yours. Talvor's mouth opened in a Kresh smile. He used medical equipment. You used determination and stubbornness. I prefer your method. War Chief Dravok stepped forward. Roy Bennett. The Kresh Dominion owes you a debt. You have saved Kresh lives twice now. You have taught us that accepting help is not weakness but wisdom. You have changed our people. I just treated wounded soldiers, Roy said. He was getting tired of repeating this, but nobody seemed to listen. No, Dravok said firmly. You showed us a different way to be strong. For 10,000 years, Kresh believed only individual power mattered. The strong survive. The weak die. This made us formidable warriors but poor allies. We did not understand cooperation because we did not value it. He placed a massive hand on his chest. You valued cooperation. You risked your life to save warriors who were not your species, not your people, not your responsibility. That is strength we never recognized. One of the other Kresh warriors spoke up. His voice was old, rough like stone grinding. I am Elder Rax. I have fought for 80 years. I have seen countless battles. But I have never seen what I saw 3 days ago. A human and Kresh fighting side by side, protecting each other, trusting each other. It should not be possible, yet you made it so. Roy felt uncomfortable with the attention. Talvor did most of the fighting. I just kept him alive long enough to do it. Exactly, Elder Rax said. That is the role you chose. Not warrior, healer. You decided your strength would be used to preserve life, not take it. This is foreign to Kresh thinking. But it works. It works better than our way. Talvor moved closer to the bed. The Dominion is creating a new tradition, based on what you taught us. From now on, Kresh warriors will have medical support in battle. Wounded warriors will be recovered and treated, not abandoned. And any Kresh who refuses to help a fallen comrade will be shamed, not honored. Roy blinked. You are changing 10,000 years of tradition because I treated one warrior? We are changing because you were right and we were wrong, War Chief Dravok said simply. The Kresh do not admit mistakes often. But when we do, we correct them completely. Your methods will save thousands of Kresh lives in the coming years. Perhaps tens of thousands. That is worth more than pride. The door opened once more. Commander Irix entered, followed by Admiral Thorne. The crystalline admiral's body glowed with multiple colors, shifting between blue and gold. I see everyone is gathered, Admiral Thorne said. His voice chimed like music. Good, this saves time. Medic Roy Bennett, Despite your insubordination and reckless disregard for proper military protocol, the Coalition owes you recognition." Roy opened his mouth to protest, but Admiral Thorne continued, "You have demonstrated qualities that define the best of humanity: courage without recklessness, compassion without weakness, competence without arrogance. You treated patients regardless of species or danger. You went into combat not to fight, but to heal. You risked your life for warriors who were not even your kind. These actions exemplify what the Coalition represents." The Admiral's colors shifted to pure gold. "Therefore, the Coalition awards you the Star of Valor, our highest civilian honor. Additionally, you are promoted to Senior Medical Officer with authority to train others in your methods. And finally, you are granted special dispensation to operate outside normal command structure when medical necessity requires it. That last one means you can ignore orders if you are saving lives," Commander Irix translated. She did not look happy about it, but she was not arguing. "Try not to abuse it." Roy did not know what to say. He looked around the room at all the faces. Human, Kresh, Avaran, crystalline, all different, all looking at him with respect. "I am just a medic," he said finally. "From Montana. I fix people. That is all I know how to do." "That is why you are valuable," Admiral Thorne said. "You do not see complexity where there is only simplicity. Someone is hurt, you help them. Someone is in danger, you protect them. Someone needs courage, you show them courage. The galaxy needs more people like you." Talvor stepped forward again. He reached into his armor and pulled out something small. A blade beautifully crafted with a handle wrapped in Kresh ceremonial cloth. "I gave you a blade before," Talvor said. "A life debt blade. But that was between us. This blade is different. This blade is from all Kresh to all humans. It symbolizes alliance, partnership, friendship between Deathworld species who understand each other." He offered the blade to Roy with both hands, a formal gesture. Roy took it carefully. The weapon was light but perfectly balanced. The blade caught the light and shimmered. "I do not know what to say," Roy admitted. "Say you will continue to be yourself," Talvor rumbled. "Say you will continue to see patients instead of species. Continue to see problems instead of impossibilities. Continue to walk into danger when others need you. That is all we ask." Roy looked at the blade, then at Talvor. "I can do that. That is who I am." "We know," Talvor said. His orange eyes burned bright. "That is why we trust you." Over the next weeks, things changed. Roy returned to Firebase Meridian and resumed training medics. But now his classes were full. Medics from every Coalition species wanted to learn human methods. The techniques that let someone treat dangerous patients without fear. The principles that valued life above tradition. Lisa became his assistant instructor. Together, they taught hundreds of medics the simple truth. Fear could be managed, controlled, used as a tool instead of a barrier. They demonstrated techniques on volunteer patients, including several Kresh warriors who specifically requested to be teaching aides. Private Davis recovered from his injuries. He kept the limp Dr. Finn predicted, but he did not care. He told everyone who would listen about the day he fought beside a medic who was braver than most soldiers. Roy tried to shut him up, but eventually gave up. Davis was going to tell his story whether Roy liked it or not. The Kresh Dominion followed through on their promise. They established medical corps within their military. Human medics volunteered to train Kresh medics. It was awkward at first. Kresh were not natural healers. But they learned. Slowly, stubbornly, in very Kresh fashion, they learned. Talvor split his time between Kresh space and Coalition space. He became a liaison, explaining human methods to Kresh warriors and Kresh methods to human soldiers. The friendship between him and Roy became known throughout the Coalition. Some people called them heroes. Others called them symbols. They called each other friends. 6 months after Haven's Reach, Roy received new orders. He was being transferred to a new ship, the Frontier's Hope. A mixed-species crew heading to the frontier regions where the Dreadclaw threat was strongest. They needed experienced medics who were not afraid of danger. On his last day at Firebase Meridian, Roy packed his equipment in his quarters. Someone knocked on the door. "Come in," Roy called. Talvor entered, ducking through the doorway. "I heard you were leaving. New assignment." "Frontier duty, I know. I requested transfer to the same ship. My request was approved." Roy looked up from his packing. "You are coming with me?" "Of course." Talvor's expression was difficult to read, but his voice was warm. "You are my friend. Friends do not separate unless they must. And you need someone to protect you. You are terrible at combat, Roy laughed. Yeah, I really am. Talvor helped him pack. The Kresh warrior was surprisingly gentle with equipment, his massive hands careful with delicate instruments. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Do you ever regret it? Talvor asked suddenly. Walking into that cargo hold 6 months ago? Your life would be simpler if you had not. Roy thought about it. His life had definitely gotten more complicated. Fame, responsibility, expectations. But he also thought about the lives saved. The changes made. The friendships formed. No, he said finally. No regrets. You needed help, I gave it. Everything else that happened was just consequences. And the consequences turned out okay. More than okay, Talvor said. You changed the galaxy, Roy of Montana. You taught the Kresh to value life. You taught the Coalition to value courage. You taught everyone that different species can trust each other completely. These are not small things. I just did my job, Roy said. But this time he smiled. He knew nobody believed him when he said that. Maybe that was okay. Let people think he was a hero, as long as he knew the truth. He was just a medic from Montana who treated patients. All patients. No matter how big or scary or dangerous they seemed. The Frontier's Hope launched 2 days later. Roy stood in the medical bay organizing supplies. His team was excellent. 4 human medics, 3 Kresh medics, 2 Avaran medics, and Dr. Finn, who had somehow gotten himself assigned to the ship. The medical bay was state-of-the-art, with equipment for treating every known species. The ship's intercom crackled. All hands prepare for faster-than-light jump. Estimated arrival at Sector 7 in 6 hours. Roy strapped down his equipment and secured his medical kit. Sector 7 was deep in the frontier. The fighting there was constant. His team would be busy. A young Kresh medic named Voss approached. Senior Officer Bennett, I am nervous. This is my first deployment. What if I fail? Roy looked at the young Kresh. He was barely adult, his scales still bright green without the scarring of experience. His orange eyes showed fear. You will be scared, Roy said honestly. Every medic is scared their first deployment. But here is what you remember. The patient does not care if you are scared. They care if you quit. So you do not quit. You treat them. You save them. And then you move to the next patient. That is the job. But what if I am too afraid? Then you do it afraid, Roy said. Courage is not about not feeling fear. Courage is about feeling fear and doing what needs to be done anyway. Earth taught me that. Kresh Prime taught you similar lessons. Use those lessons. Voss straightened slightly. Yes, Senior Officer. I will not quit. Good. Roy patted the young Kresh on the arm. Now get to your station. We jump in 2 minutes. The Frontier's Hope entered faster than light travel. Through the medical bay windows, stars stretched into lines. Roy sat at his desk and pulled out his personal data pad. He had a message from Commander Irix. Roy, the Coalition wants you to write a training manual. Your methods, your techniques, everything you have learned. They want to distribute it to every medical facility in Coalition space. Think about it. You would help thousands of medics you will never meet. Irix, Roy thought about it, a manual. His methods written down, preserved, taught to generations of medics. It was a big responsibility. But then again, everything had been a big responsibility since that day in the cargo hold. He opened a new document and typed the title. Practical Combat Medicine, A Human Approach. Then he started writing. The first lesson was simple, the foundation of everything he believed. The patient is not your enemy. Fear is your enemy. Treat the patient. Manage the fear. Everything else will follow. Talvor entered the medical bay. He had been assigned as security officer for the medical team, protecting the healers so they could do their work. He looked at Roy's data pad. You are writing a book? A manual? Teaching others what we learned. Talvor nodded approvingly. Good. Knowledge should be shared. It makes everyone stronger. Very human thing to say, Roy pointed out. I learned from the best, Talvor rumbled. He sat in a reinforced chair beside Roy's desk. We have 6 hours until we reach Sector 7. Tell me more Earth stories. About Montana. About your father. About the bears and mountains and stubborn humans who refuse to quit. Roy smiled and closed his data pad. The manual could wait. Right now his friend wanted to talk. And talking with friends was important too. All right, Roy said. Did I ever tell you about the time my dad got treed by a female grizzly with cubs? He was up that pine tree for 6 hours. Said it was the longest 6 hours of his life. What happened? Talvor leaned forward, fascinated. Eventually, the bear got bored and left. Dad climbed down, went home, and told my mom he was never hiking alone again. But 2 weeks later, he was back in the mountains. That is what humans do. We get scared, we survive, and then we do the scary thing again. Talvor laughed, that deep rumbling sound. Insane species. I'm glad we are allies. Me too, Roy agreed. The Frontier's hope flew on through the stars, carrying its crew toward the next crisis, the next battle, the next group of wounded soldiers who would need help. Roy was ready. He had his medical kit, his training, his courage, and his friends. That was enough. That was always enough, because at the end of the day, the job was simple. Someone was hurt. He would help them. It did not matter if they were human, Kresh, or any other species. It did not matter if they were big as a warrior or small as a child. It did not matter if they were scared or dangerous or dying. They needed help. He would provide it. Just like he always had. Just like he always would. That was what it meant to be a medic. That was what it meant to be human. And in the vast galaxy full of different species and different cultures, that simple truth was enough to change everything. The ship's intercom crackled again. Medical team, we have a situation. Prepare for casualties. Unknown species. Possibly dangerous. Roy stood up and grabbed his medical kit. Talvor rose beside him, hand moving to his weapon. They looked at each other and nodded. Just another big cat, Roy said, echoing the words that started everything. I have handled worse. Together they walked toward the medical bay doors, ready for whatever came next. Because that was what friends did. That was what healers did. That was what humans did. They kept going. No matter what, always.